like to extend a warm welcome to Robin Gupta. Robin is an engineering leader, seasoned engineering leader. He has more than 15 plus years of experience driving software delivery across multiple dimensions, like small startups as well as large enterprise and scaled up organization and stuff like that. As the co-founder and CEO of Test Zeus that you are seeing at this point, he combines hands-on delivery with a metrics-driven approach to elevate engineering levels of testing across multiple industries like BFSI, EdTech, retail, and many other industries that I don't want to go into all the details because then it'll be time only for a bio. Without any further ado at this point, I would like to, pass the baton to you, Robin, so that you can continue with the presentation. And again, as I mentioned to all of you, please mute yourself and use the chat forum for question. With that, Robin, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me. Thank you for the warm introduction. Let's get going. This will be fun. And towards the end, we also have some knowledge nuggets from industry experts, the real experts, more expert than I am. So let's get going. Quick introduction. As I was briefly introduced, I've worked at a few places. I've also been an open source contributor to projects like Selenium. And the QR code that you see is for the world's first open source testing agent, a brief glimpse of which we will see in the upcoming slides. There is a problem that we wanted to solve. So we'll talk about the problem. We'll talk about the future of UX and testing and how I personally see the future of test automation. So the world's first open source testing agent, Hercules, is a glimpse of how we want to solve that. Okay, feel free to scan the QR code. We'll have the same at the end as well. But if you go to GitHub, you can find it with the name of testzeus-hercules. Cool. First and foremost, problem number one. Interestingly, all of us would have heard about GitHub Copilot. If not, that's okay. So GitHub Copilot helps you accelerate the coding speed. Like you can give it an instruction and press tab, it will finish up the statement or the code for you to write the package name, the class, the method, and so on and so forth, right? What I'm showing on the screen is the research study done by Microsoft GitHub Copilot team themselves. So you can take it with a little pinch of salt. There could be some bias there, but still, what they're trying to highlight is that they divided the group into two parts. One did not use the Copilot, one used Copilot. In summary, they found that the team which used GitHub Copilot was 55% faster than the one which did not. In summary, what people could have done in, let's say, 100% of the time, now takes a whole lot lesser time, okay? But this is just the tip of the iceberg with AI-powered coding processes, right? The second, as we have all heard, or maybe some of us have seen, is the rise of the AI developer or the agentic developer. What I'm showing is the bold.new demo, but to make it fun and interactive, right? If you go to bold.new, you can just give it a small prompt, right? Create a CRM like Salesforce, okay? With a dashboard, okay? You'll just do that. And within this webinar itself, this will be created and displayed. See, the whole idea is that bold.new and similar systems are not endorsing any one product. The idea is that bold.new or Replit agent or even Salesforce's own developer agents, right? They take a prompt, they make a plan out of it. As we can see over here on the left-hand side, it has stated like, I'll help you create this modern CRM. I'll help you create the scaffolding. It has thought, okay, I'll use TypeScript for it. And it has started creating the files and the code for it. Interestingly, on the interface, if you zoom in a little bit, you can see that there's a small terminal. If you want to do some of your own stuff, you can edit the code. And if you are happy with the result, which you will see in, I think, 2 or 3 minutes, you can deploy it as well. Now, see, if we just pause here for 20 seconds and think about it. Robin, as a full stack engineer, used to take, I think, 1.5, 2 weeks to dabble with a new technology and then build out a dashboard for a CRM. What we are seeing is this development on steroids. You give it a prompt, you don't even give it a requirement. I would have complained to my product manager about requirements. This did not. Also, this doesn't go to sleep. Plus, it has taken that one-line requirement, expanded it, and then started creating the whole code, the front end, the back end, and the scaffolding for it. So the full development cycle is being compressed from 1 to 2 weeks to 5 to 10 minutes, right? I can still do updates and then I can deploy it. But if you are the tester against systems like this, you are suddenly fighting against time. And since the development process is much more faster, the feedback process has to be much more faster. Okay, so that is problem number one, the rise of the dev agents. Okay, we'll come to problem number two now. Okay, so the problem number two is we know this gentleman, he's Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA. He made a prediction that in the future, every single pixel on your screen will be generated, not rendered. It will be generated. See how systems are built today is that you have a scaffolding or a template, and then you populate data on the fly. You call some API, you will have some data being populated there, right? What Mr. Jensen Wang is saying is that there will be no template itself. Everything which you will see on the screen will be hyper personalized and generated on the fly for the user. If, for example, I go on to Amazon, I have to go to the Amazon homepage, then click on search, and then search for, let's say, red Nike sneakers. So many steps. And the same Amazon system is deployed to everybody across Warsaw, Paris, Utah, Pakistan, India, Columbus, everywhere, right? But in the future, if you can generate the UI as we saw using systems like bold.new, why not just build the system on the fly, build that hyper personalized Amazon experience for Robin that day, knowing that he needs new red sneakers? So that was problem number one. This is problem number two. Testing these systems will be exponentially complicated. Why? We'll see that in a minute. Also, this is not a thing of sci-fi fantasy. Salesforce actually launched a small demo of something called as the generative canvas. Okay. Sadly, the GIF doesn't seem to be running. We'll try to reload the screen. While we're talking about AI, GIFs still don't work on Google Sheets or slides. But okay, here it goes. Jokes aside, see what is happening here is that a salesperson is trying to get on a sales call, and then the system knows about it based on their calendar and the meeting intent. Now the system has, so the user asks the system, show me the news related to the prospect's company. So the system actually made that box on the fly. There was no template for it earlier. It generated that box on the fly and then filled it with news as relevant to that call for that user, for that prospect. In these cases, you just don't have a static website or a static application which you will be testing. Oh, let me write these 50 test cases. Oh, now let me try to automate the 50 test cases. Oh, I'll run them. Here, the use case is being built and deployed for the user during that call itself. So, okay, in summary, problem number one, now websites, systems, and apps can be built exponentially faster using dev agents. Problem number two for testing, or interestingly, the future of UX and testing for users is much more hyper-personalized, okay? That brings us to the future of SDLC as we see, okay? A lot of us in the group would have seen the left-hand side set of boxes. You have requirements, you design them, you implement them, you have the verification, and then you deploy and then you maintain it. Classical waterfall? No, Robin, this doesn't sound right. We do agile. See, even in agile, when you do a 2-week sprint, you have similar flow. You have the requirements, you pan them out, you build them, then you test them, and then you deploy them. But that is only up until so far. The future, one of the probable futures would be a lot of these mini Scrum teams would be running in parallel, and humans plus agents like Bolt for development, Hercules for testing, and Galileo for design will be doing these very small Scrum loops at real time to deliver hyper-personalized experience for the users. Okay. In simple words, earlier you had one requirement, one implementation. Now it is just branching out to many, many possibilities and probabilities. That's why this session says the probable future of testing, because now the tester or the designer has to be mindful about all these possible combinations for the user. Also, systems like Bolt or Hercules actually make it possible now. Earlier, if there was a new requirement, new design, the engineering team would have said, oh, that takes 2 more weeks. But now that comment is just not over there. The teams are much more faster and they can implement the same system or the same probable possibilities much faster in much smaller loops. Okay. That brings us to, okay, great. We can design and we can build it real fast. Let's talk about testing for a few minutes because that's the other part. If I had to ask the audience over here, if you had to test option A, which is, a standard screen which has fields on it, you can enter fields and you can do check boxes and then click submit. Or if you had to check system B, which is ChatGPT, which one would be easier to test? You can just enter in the comments. What do you think would be easier to test? Is it system A, which is deterministic? You fill certain values and you click submit, they will be saved. Or is it B? Interestingly, where if you ask it the number of R's in strawberry, or if you ask it to write a thank you note, it might actually generate different thank you notes at different points of time. So you can put it in the chat. That would be a fun exercise. What do you feel would be easier to test? Is it A, a deterministic system, or is it B, a probabilistic system? To be very clear, a probabilistic system gives you a probable output because it is based on machine learning or AI. Okay, so we'll wait for 10 seconds for the options and answers. Everybody, I think, is inclining towards A. I'll be the devil's advocate. I'll just say B so that B also gets some votes. Okay. Wouldn't B be easier to test? Yeah, I think, yeah. Please go on, sir. Yeah.
At this point, majority of the people are telling option A or system A, so everybody is clinging. So yeah, one vote for the option B as well.
Okay. Yeah. See, interestingly, in option B, the accuracy could be much more higher because it's all LLMs and it has already been red teamed against. This has been so ChatGPT system has been very rigorously tested. So the accuracy is a little higher. So I would be much more lazier in testing system B because I know that it is a deployed system and it is much more fine-tuned for the general audience. Okay, cool. We'll not pause there for too much. We'll jump forward. See, testing not only goes probabilistic in nature. Now you have to, as a tester, think about multiple probabilities of requirements and implementation. It goes multidimensional too. Earlier, you would just have to see that, okay, you put user ID, password, click submit, you have the home page. But now with systems which are built on top of LLMs and AI, you have to be very sensitive about a few other dimensions as well. For example, performance, effectiveness, quality. I have highlighted a few benchmarks which are used to grade LLMs, and the eval criteria or the evaluations are against effectiveness, quality, performance. Bias is another one. Prompt injections are the security testing for LLMs now. So what you could check only through the browser now you have to be sensitive that the LLM-based apps do not have any bias, for example, against a certain race, or the LLM-based apps are giving context-relevant answers. If you have built a system which is supposed to tell you news, it should only tell you the news. It should not write poems. It should not write essays. It should not help you in your child's homework. Okay, this was not the case earlier when I started in IT. Cool. A lot of theory. Let's see some things in action again, right? So we have this famous quote like, show me, don't tell. So I'll quickly jump into VS Code. I hope my VS Code screen is visible to everybody.
Yes, it is.
And I already have the Test Zeus Hercules package installed. You can do the same. It's on GitHub. Everything is open source. We have not held anything back. I come from a very strong open source ethos. So the core code, prompts, test data evals, everything is open source. So you can give it a shot. That being said, what we see on the screen is a very simple test case. It says go to an e-commerce website. We're using Wrangler. Click on the search icon, enter the search text as rainbow jacket. Click on the first result and the price should be 24.99 INR. Okay, Robin, I have seen this exact thing, I think 2011, 12, and for many, many years. What is magical here? See, there are three magical aspects when we look at this. First part is that this is an agent, this is not a tool. What is the difference? We'll come to that in a minute. But the idea is that this agent has the browser or Playwright as a tool, it has API as a tool. So even if you write tests in normal language or in different languages, including English, Japanese, Spanish, or whatever, it is still able to understand the intent, use the right tool, and then run the test case for you. So this does not have any Cucumber implementation behind the curtain. What you see is what you get. Again, it's all open source, so I'm not filming it. So that is magic trick number one. Second, since you never write any code, you only write English language tests or natural language tests in your native language, you don't have to ever maintain any code. Even if anything on the screen changes, the system or the agent identifies the location or the attributes for that change and is still able to run the test. So that is the second magic trick. No code was one, like no code ever. Since there was no code, second is no maintenance. So no maintenance ever. What is the third magic trick? The third magic trick is this is an agent. So this is a small example on Salesforce, on my Scratch org. Apart from the scaffolding, like lines number 1 to 4 are all scaffolding. Go to this URL, log in or whatever, right? The core test case, interestingly, is only 2 lines or maybe 1 line. When I create a lead with Indian dummy data, then a lead should be created. I am not specifying the details, such as click on login, click on submit, fill first name as Robin, fill the phone number with a 10-digit thing, so on and so forth. And when we will run this, you will see that there are actually a couple of steps to be navigated. So coming back to the idea of an agent or the probabilistic nature of UX and testing is that, see, when you have so many probable scenarios to be tested, it will be humanly impossible for any tester to check against all those scenarios. If you were to test ChatGPT, first of all, writing test cases for ChatGPT itself would be like, 1,000-line test suite, and then running them all one by hand, one by one, is another complexity. So agents, testing agents like this actually solve that second complexity. You can just have natural language English tests, even higher abstract or higher intent, and they will still run fine is the idea. Also, now you don't have to maintain them. Okay, I'll quickly run it, and then I'll show you a few more magical things over here. So I'm just running the search feature that we saw. Hopefully it should open a browser and it should not let me down. Okay, it has opened browser on my second screen, but that is how it looks. And it actually searches for the icon on its own. You don't have to say, okay, go on the magnifier icon or click on this locator or anything. Enters rainbow jacket over there and then tries to look at the first result. The first result should have $24.99 as the price, and then it tries to validate that is that value correct or not, as per the intent specified by the user. Okay. While it is running, you can do the same tests on API, security, against mobile as well, or accessibility is something we recently introduced. Okay. So it has run, it has captured the reports or results in one location. But we'll not jump to the results and reports. I'll show you a few things which will help you understand how agents can help in solving this probabilistic nature of testing. Okay. So inside this agent, there are actually a team of small agents sitting. So the first is the planner agent. The planner agent takes these steps, creates the plan of execution. Once it does that, just like a team lead, it sends it to the second agent. The second agent is browser navigation agent. So the browser navigation agent can use tools like Playwright and the browser to actually execute the plan it got from the team lead. Even if the UI changes, even if your ChatGPT's answer change or input test cases change, the same team of planner and the other mini agents can talk to each other, create a new plan, and still run it end to end without human intervention. That's the whole idea of solving probabilistic testing using agents. Now, in the same manner, just like we have the planner agent or the browser navigation agent, we have other agents like API testing agent, security testing agent, accessibility testing agent. And just like you would have a small human team of testers, now you can augment them with a small agent team of testers who can run all these scenarios end to end. Okay. We have some questions in the chat. We'll address them. Promise. All at the end. Okay. Cool. Okay. That looks one. But if we look at the other demo, which was the Salesforce one, which is slightly more magical, we don't recommend people to write test cases like this. This is too abstract. But still, just to run it and show you that the agent can still run the same test end to end without any hiccups. It has generally not let me down in demos, but yeah, as we understand, network or even systems like Salesforce could have their own hiccup moments. So I think it is trying to send me some verification code. In these cases, the agent will try to create a new plan. Oh, this was not part of my plan. How do I solve the verification code? If I tell it, go to my email, grab that verification code and put it will start executing those things. But since this was never the part of the plan, it will actually fail that test case and tell you that, oh, I encountered this alien activity on the application, just like a junior tester would, right? Okay. If we see it is trying to negotiate between that team of agents. Oh, how to go about this? Let me try entering something. Let me try this other thing. So it is telling, okay, the current page requires email verification to proceed. So it has read the page, the intent, and it is trying to negotiate or make a plan about it. But this was never the part of the test case, so it will try a few things and then fail the test case. Okay. In the interest of time, and also not to show my email credentials, I'll go back to presentation. That being said, so what we saw very quickly was the world's first open source testing agent, and the whole idea that how agents can now help you solve that probabilistic testing. See, if you go back a few slides, in the future, the hypothesis that we have is that humans and agents will run these mini scrums to deliver multiple versions of the product, which will fit the user's intent. And then finally, one final thing will be released to production. You start from requirements, do mini scrums across many features, trim it down, test it, and then release one thing to production. Rather than a sequential one-line straight line flow, it will be more like trees, branches, and then all the branches converge to that one feature which is deployed to production. Okay. That being said, let's keep on moving forward. A lot of times people ask us about tools, co-pilots, agents, and humans. I will also try to touch upon a very debatable topic. When we show these demos to human friends, not agent friends, they ask us that if we don't need to automate anything, then what will an SDET or a QA do? See, the whole idea is that the agents are supposed to augment humans. They are never meant to replace humans. Tesla's autopilot requires you to place your hands on the steering wheel at all the times. It can do the driving on its own, but it needs human supervision and maintenance. In that same example, applying it to testing as a field or UX or design as a field, even though agents can solve it, maybe it can create designs, maybe it can create code, maybe it can test or run the test on your behalf. Understanding the product requirements, talking to end users who are humans in this case, and finalizing the acceptance criteria, writing that small feature file that we saw is still the core responsibility of a good tester. But okay, on the speedometer, what we are trying to show is that when I started my testing and automation career, we had tools. The example here is from Selenium. It says driver.findby.click. Selenium is a tool. You have to tell it, go to this web element, do a .click operation. So the tool does not have autonomy or agency. The tool also does not have capabilities like using skills or building more skills, learning, thinking, planning. That brought us to copilots. GitHub Copilot is one example. Also, there were NLP-based automation tools where you can say things like, click on home. You don't write the exact code, but you say click on home, and it will still try to figure out the home and go about it. From there, we went towards agents. So Tezu Hercules is an agent. You can tell it create a lead. From that statement, it will create the plan. It has agency and the planning capability to actually go do that entire task end to end. Also, when you look at agents, interestingly, in the market, there are many agents. I see this flood of agents. So when you see an agent, it would be good to ask core questions that, oh, can it handle other tools? I see it can do browser. Can it do APIs? Can it do other things? Can I attach other tools to it? An agent, by definition, should be able to use other tools. If you go to OpenAI's documentation, they have a term called function calling. So an agent should be able to do function calling, right? The other is agents should ideally be able to complete the task autonomously, which requires it to inherently create a plan. It should not ask the user at each step to press tab or press enter. That is not an agent. The other thing is that the agent should have some capacity of memory. When you look at humans, they have brains, eyes, and hands. Similar attributes, similar, not same, should be with an agent as well. And if we pump the whole needle of the speedometer towards the right-hand side, it has humans, which is me and you. If we give a task of testing or design to any of us, what I'll do is, oh, let me get some coffee and let me try to break the software as a tester. Or let me get some coffee and let me try to create some new designs for the software. Not only can we take care of planning and executing the task autonomously, we can also proactively question the requirement. Here is a fun question. Has anyone ever seen ChatGPT rejecting to any of your thoughts? If you say, I like dogs, ChatGPT will say, yeah, I like dogs. Dogs are great. If you say, I like cats, ChatGPT will say, yeah, I like cats too. Cats are great. If you say, I hate dogs, ChatGPT will say, yeah, I hate dogs as well. See, that is the difference between AI systems, agents, and humans. Not only do we possess autonomy, we have core innate creative and design skills so as to question the requirement itself. Okay. That being said, we'll quickly move further to the future of UX and testing, or the probable future. One of the probable futures that we see is humans will get elevated from the grunt work of clicking buttons and pressing buttons on a keyboard to being tastemakers. What we are seeing over here is an area of key interest for me. These are coffee cuppers. In the coffee industry, whenever there is a batch being produced, before that batch hits production, actually coffee is extracted with some sample, and experts in the industry, like the ladies that we see over here, are called to do the cupping section or the tasting session. If you see the size of the spoon, it is actually pretty small. So what they do is they take a small sip and they try to understand the acidity, the flavor, the consistency. Because even coffee is produced, it is a result of the soil and the climate and the water and the conditions and the fruit and the harvest and so on and so forth. So the whole idea is that you just cannot make the coffee production process similar to how you get burgers at McDonald's or from your burger joint. That can be productionized. Coffee production inherently cannot be productionized. Every batch of coffee is slightly different from the other ones because it is live produced. Same applies to vegetables and fruits as well. Coming back to the presentation, see, when humans will be elevated from clicking buttons, creating that rounded box, the whole idea is that we have to tap into our creativity and rhetoric to become tastemakers or culture designers of the system. We have to be the folks who question the system and requirements and say, can we have that hyper-personalized system of Amazon, as I explained earlier, for the users? So, will AI and agents replace humans? I don't think so. Machines have always helped us become much more productive, much more nuanced. When I started my programming career, I started with basic beginners, all-purpose symbolic instruction code. You had to write it line by line. Even in languages like C, C++, you had to do memory management. But now I don't see anybody talking about memory management. People talk about GPUs, but not storing a pointer in the local because we abstracted away from those details. Similarly, testers, designers, engineers will be abstracted away from the details of that rounded box by 3-pixel radius. Or maybe clicking that one button on the home page, they will be abstracted towards much more meaningful goals of designing, engineering, and testing those systems end to end, and ensuring that all those probabilities are compressed to one serial output, which makes the most sense for the user. Okay, as I promised, I have garnered a few thoughts from industry leaders. First and foremost, we have Paul Battison. He's the CEO at Groundworks. They specialize in Salesforce. He strongly believes that in the future, people will start moving into other modalities such as AR and VR. Just think about it, like how you were testing systems on the browser. Now you have to do the same testing in a virtual world, wherein not only you have to ensure that the other non-playable characters are doing their task, maybe the task or the quest itself is moving in a straight line and fulfilling the person inside that virtual reality. So that also will mean that the testing strategies will need to adapt to these systems. Other is a note from Navya Joshi. She's a UX leader at Shell. I loved her analogy, wherein in AI-powered products, there is always this problem of chicken and the egg. Which one comes first and which one to solve first? While the note itself touches multiple points, the key notes which I felt are important are that now with AI-powered systems, the feedback loop becomes much more smaller and faster. Also, with AI-driven testing and design apps, they just open up a whole new box of possibilities. Now, what could be done in 2 weeks can be done much faster, and you can iterate a whole lot sooner. One key thing which she touches, and I love that note, is that see, when you design images with ChatGPT or with other systems like Sora, attribution and ownership become a key concern. Now, these systems were trained on a lot of internet data. When you design things out of it, does ChatGPT get the credit or do you get the credit? So, okay, I'll leave that question hanging in the air. Federico is the co-founder and chief quality officer at Abstracta. When I reached out to them, they said, I don't have the answer. What will the future look like? But I have questions. Questions like, are we going to specify to machines or requirements our wishes? And then how are we going to drive the responsibilities? The second part is, hopefully the machines generate the code, as we saw in bold.news example, test and provide feedback, iterate until the desired outcome is there. So will we give the system the requirements or the system will give it back? But the last part is what actually struck a chord in my heart is, let's not just bother about the future of testing or UX or engineering. We are seeing fundamental shifts in the SDLC as a whole. Again, that's a question. We leave that hanging in the air. Bas Dijkstra is a test automation expert, trainer, and consultant. Love the notes that claims from some AI vendors and fanboys and girls. Some people believe that testing and testers will be replaced. I strongly disagree. I don't think anybody will be replaced. And likely never at all. See, interestingly, when you think about systems like ChatGPT, there is actually much more testing required. So I see that quality will become one of the key differentiators for businesses. That being said, AI should be as a means to support testing and testers. And at the end, the human eye and the human touch is needed. Why? Because the user is also a human. Okay. Brings us to Dimitri Piole. They are the CEO at Next IT. I love the note around the future where autonomous AI test agents work alongside testers in a collaborative fashion. As we highlighted, the future engineering team is not just humans, but a dev agent and a testing agent and a design agent, and they work collaboratively. These agents will specialize in test design, requirements coverage, test generation, and completeness of the acceptance criteria, ensuring every aspect of quality is addressed. In short, dynamic partnership between human expertise and AI intelligence is how they see the future. Pallavi is the founder of 5 Elements Learning. She's also a very active open source contributor and community expert. Pallavi believes that we will elevate and we'll move forward from the mundane task of engineering to more design-focused responsibilities. Developers and testers will start taking these roles of a good designer and start being those taste makers of the system implementation. It is exciting to envision a future where humans focus on applying their unique intelligence and expertise, because that is what differentiates us from the agents or AI systems. That's about it. And I think we've reached the end of the session. The QR code leads you to the world's first testing agent. Please give it a shot. Let us know of any questions. I think we can go on to the questions in the webinar chat now.
Awesome, awesome. It was very good presentation, Robin. I really like some of your key takeaways. Other than the focus on automation and the tools that you use, test use, and stuff like that. I really like some of the important notes, and I was putting those notes as well as takeaways for the audience about higher levels of abstraction that is being required, or emerging trends of the higher levels of abstractions on the testers. It's not that they're going to go away. It's just that they will be expected to do something else. What is that something else? We don't know, to be
Yeah.
defined. So I really love some of those thought processes. And in fact, before I even go to the questions, I wanted to, touch something. This is something that I always tell, like, the concepts of, the waterfall thinking that you were showing at the very early stages. Yeah, that one. Originally, when this concept came from Winston Royce, he was originally the person who was, around 1970s or so, was proposing an idea. But that paper had about 18 diagrams on 11, 12 pages. Okay. Now he was iteratively incrementing this, like first there is analysis and then development. And then, he said like, okay, between analysis and design, requirements, we need to have, this thought process and stuff like that. And this is a diagram that was on this figure 2 of those 18 figures. And later down the road, he was actually including multiple feedback loops. In fact, double feedback loop. Like if testing failed, don't go back to the development, but go back to the design. So double feedback
Yeah.
loop were all introduced. But practice rushed, created a practice and blamed the
Of course.
theory
Yeah.
for it. So I,
Got
I,
it.
I published in a scholarly journal article that basically said like waterfall doesn't exist in theory, only in practice. And the same process continue if we don't shift our responsibility, shift our mindset in terms of what is emerging and stuff like that. So really loved the wonderful presentation. And to some extent, it is also a little bit scary that, machines write the code, machines test everything, and, the critical thinking, the systems thinking is becoming
Yeah.
more and more important for us. So really loved it. Now, I do want to go back to a couple of important questions that people have asked. I think this was in connection to the magics that you were talking about, three magics, I believe so. Is there magic to retrieve values from database or API response for checking displayed values like price?
Yeah. 100%. We can do both APIs. We can do DB calls. The examples are there on GitHub. So first, this is running a small mobile example. I'll quickly kill
Okay.
it. Yeah. But also, if you go to GitHub and if you go to the tests, even that is open sourced, you will find that we have examples around accessibility, security, APIs, and the others. So you can do things like this. Or I think in the Salesforce example, we have tried something wherein you can call an API to get the details for creating. Okay, and I enter the least details from data of users API last record. So it can go fetch that, use that to create a lead on Salesforce.
Okay. So potentially then you can also parameterize those user
Yeah.
IDs, passwords, and stuff like that. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So there is one more question that came up on the chat, which is what challenges do you see in testing the agents?
Now, I think that's a question close to my heart, keeps me awake few nights. See, I think there are a lot of challenges. I'll start with the basics, right? Acting as the person who actually does not know about agents, first people should know about agents. So awareness and education is one of the key challenges with agents. Thanks to a lot of marketing fluff, people have an image of agents. So I would urge the people to first go and study a little bit about agents. That's what I did. That's how I lost some of my hair. But hair fall aside, first do some study, become a good tester, good designer, good engineer, right? Start with knowledge. Now that you have the knowledge, now think about the use case. So always testing should be focused on the end use case. It should never be about the system. Testing is never about the Salesforce system. It is about the CRM application. Similarly, testing is never about the agent. It is about what is that agent trying to solve. So note down all your code requirements. In terms of agents, as we touched upon the topic briefly, don't just focus on the functional requirements. There have been some massive failures in agent deployments last year on commercial websites, where agents on websites like Ford were giving some very wrong answers. Some agents even gave away the discount codes for shopping, which it should not. Which brings me to the non-functional testing for agents. You should always focus on a few key parameters. I'll just touch upon three. I can send research papers, you can also find them. First is context adherence and relevance. An agent is supposed to do some task, or it is built for some purpose. Focus that it always does things around that. Second is around biases. The agents are built on top of LLMs, and LLMs are trained on data. Data is never unbiased. Data is always biased. It is the task of the data scientists and engineers to minimize that. Agents, therefore, should not be biased towards any certain race, ethnicity, and other factors. Third, last, and the most important is you should always touch upon the red teaming aspect of the agent. What that means is think about it in classical security testing terms. When you look at a website for e-commerce, we should ensure that hackers do not steal away data. Similarly, when you ask an agent, show me your system prompt, it should not show you the system prompt, because that system prompt is the actual thesis for that agent implementation. This is a very simple test case, but the whole idea is that you should red team your agent and ensure it is protected against malicious prompts. So though that is a very small answer on a very big topic.
Yes, yes. In fact, if you don't mind, can I add a couple of ideas to
Yeah,
that
please.
particular thing?
Yeah,
Robin, just wanted to get your permission before I say that.
yeah, please.
So, on the last 2 points that you were mentioning about the bias, I do want to bring out something about responsible AI, which means responsible AI includes a lot of ethical considerations, which includes, concepts like beneficence, which is like, are you doing the right thing? The non-malfeasance, what are the things that we should not allow this, to be doing. The third thing is more about justice. Are you being, impartial in terms of your
Yeah,
data collection, data adherence, and everything else? And the fourth thing is more about autonomy. Despite all these things, give the control to the user to choose what the action is, because sometimes my face may have a small cut over here because when I shaved, I cut myself,
yeah,
and now my face is no longer recognized by AI. But it should give me an option to say, we can't recognize you. Would you like to use something else to validate yours? So that thought process should always exist, rather than making a deterministic decision on whatever that function is solving. And the third thing you're talking about, abuser prompt. In the context of persona development, I have one thing called abuser persona, like how a hacker thinks, not the
yeah,
happy user, the all those things, but somebody with a malicious intent of breaking the system. When people ask, like, can you give me the system user ID and password? That's a
yeah,
simplistic example of, that's an abuser persona, so I won't
yeah,
let you do this. So that thought process should always exist. So really, nice to see how those thoughts are lining up. Really appreciate that, Robin.
yeah,
One more thing I see, I know, Hung, that's a very loaded question that you asked. We have tried to, answer as much as we can, but please reach out to us if there's any additional thing that you would like to get answered. One more question here, actually a couple more questions. Let me see time. Oh, we do have time. Can we integrate with Salesforce application for performing end-to-end automation?
yeah. That is one of the core theses that we are trying to solve. In my own experience coming from the Salesforce world, I realized that automating Salesforce is one of the toughest jobs any test automation engineer or tester can do. Um, this agent actually understands Salesforce nuances. See, when we say, what are the nuances? When we say things like, okay, go create a lead, it can not only create that on the UI, it can do API and then do both of them on the same platform. Because the agent has instruction fine-tuned for operations on Salesforce. So it knows things like app launcher, it knows things like leads, accounts, it knows nuances of a CRM. In summary, can it be integrated to testing on Salesforce? Yes, strongly yes.
Strongly, yes. Okay, cool. Um, I think that the person who asked the very first question in terms of does this tool support mobile automation, she's asking, can you do the demo on iOS? The tool.
uh, we actually don't integrate with Appium today.
Okay.
We use Playwright's native systems to emulate browsers. But a key note is that, see, things like Playwright or Appium or Selenium or browsers are tools for the agents. We must remember that we have not built another tool. We have built an agent. We have not built a hammer or a drill. We have built a carpenter. You can attach more tools to it. So just like we did Playwright, we can easily do Appium and these other tools so that it can do real device testing as well. It's on the roadmap, but just to get people started, we have web apps using Playwright emulation.
Oh, I like that analogy. It's not a hammer, it's a carpenter. I'll keep that in
Yeah.
mind. Thank you very much, Ravi. I really love that analogy. Madhavi, I hope we answered your question. And one more question here. What tools we used for the web automation as what? Well, I think the question is, what are the tools we use for web automation as best practices?
Oh my God. Okay. Two parts. One, we have used Playwright. I actually come from a Selenium world, but still we decided we'll go with Playwright. So Playwright is the tool that Hercules uses for web automation. But I think the second part of that question is much more difficult as
Yeah,
for the best practices. In my own experience, what I found is that there are no best practices
agree.
in the industry. There is only one practice, like do what gets you paid or do what makes you happy, right? If happiness is your currency, or do what makes the customer happy. So I wouldn't strongly say about any best practices. Just focus on the customer, focus on the use case, do what floats your boat. Sorry, hazy answer, but that is the practical answer I have.
That is very well said because what is considered as best for me may not be the best for you. So I feel like best is an enemy of good, better is an enemy of good. The more you are looking for better and best, you're not even piloting experiments on what can be good. So I stay away from best practices and even recommend the word like let's fall with good practices. If you look at
Yeah,
Project Management Institute, for instance, when you read these frameworks, they only say good practices that have been accepted or utilized by the industry. No best practices at all. So I don't know. I like that thought process that you mentioned. So I'm just giving you an additional thought process
yeah.
here. I don't think I have any additional questions, and I believe I have asked every question at this particular point. So in the interest of time, okay, let's move forward. I don't think any other questions, guys. I'm going to wait for maybe another 20 seconds or so if there are any questions. Please use the chat forum again to ask any questions. I do want to.
I think there is one.
Oh,
Sorry to interrupt you. There is just one from B. Shobin on
oh
the
yeah, that's right. Just
Q&A tab. Yeah.
yeah, maybe visual thinking, but does this tool support visual testing?
Yes, your wishes are fulfilled. As per the latest release, you can tell it to take a screenshot and do snapshot testing or visual testing. So that is something which we have recently released. So we have given it had eyes, we have given it more eyes.
Very good. Excellent. Talking about that, I do have one question, if that's okay, to ask
Yeah, yeah.
Robin. While you are doing the testing here, if there is an expectation of grabbing screenshots at different points in your testing steps, or even grab a recording, a video recording of how the entire thing is done, is that a possibility for that?
Yeah, 100%. We actually take detailed execution reports. We didn't jump into that. I didn't want to make it boring or a tool demo. If you go to output or proofs, we actually take screenshots before and after every step. So whatever Hercules does, it takes a screenshot before that and then one quickly after that, so as to ensure that the whole audit trail is maintained. So I just opened like one screenshot, but it does that. And it also captures the video for the end-to-end execution so that the user, engineer, the team can see what has happened on the screen. And the agent has not gone haywire.
Very good, very good. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So it kind of supports the fifth, responsible AI component, which is explainability. So
Yeah.
very good.
Oh,
That's
100%. Yeah.
that's good. I believe we have answered everything here. Again, Robin, thank you very much for a wonderful demo and wonderful ideas here. If you don't mind putting your contact information up at this point, that'll be good because I'm sure somebody will be asking. like how do I contact you, or how do I get more information and stuff like that. You also referred to a paper. So if you can maybe share that information about the paper with us, then we can maybe put that as part of our communication as well.
Okay.
That's all for today. Again, I would like to thank you very much, Robin. There will be more webinars that will be getting scheduled, so please check our InflectraCON website for more information. With that being said, thank you very much, Robin. It was very nice having you. Looking forward to working with you more.
Definitely. Thank you so much and have a nice one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.